Like it's ruining people's faith at this point, and I'm not
yeah, so I
okay
wouldn't.
with it.
Yeah, so if we had a beer, I'd get into it with you. But yeah, that would probably, I don't know what else. I don't know.
And then all right, I'll ask you this: what's your most regrettable moment on your show? Like, did you have an episode where you just went?
I'd say my most regrettable thing that I ever did was almost offer an apology for saying stand-up women aren't funny. So I made that claim.
I actually have that as a note. Women aren't funny. There's one of my notes.
I think women can be funny. I don't think I've never encountered a funny stand-up woman. And I said that, and and I said it. If you listened to it, it was quite nuanced. I was like, I'm open to being wrong. I just actually personally haven't ever watched a stand-up comic who's a female.
Fulwiler in mind when you said it. Obviously, she's
But
your
what-
friend. Like, it just wasn't.
who's that?
Jennifer
that?
Fulwiler wasn't on your mind when you said it.
I don't remember exactly, but I'm quite sure she didn't come to mind at all.
That's what I mean. So,
but what happened was the internet broke over my head, and I was getting phone calls from everybody. And I recorded a little video to try to quell it, and I regret that. I think, yeah, I'm almost ashamed. Well, let me back up, because we kind of live in a culture, right, where you're not allowed to say sorry anymore, right? Because we see that when you say sorry, people then use that as a club. You kind of legitimize the mob, and they beat you with it. And so we're like, don't say sorry. No one should say sorry. But no, we should absolutely say sorry when we do something wrong. And I don't want to say something that's false. That would hurt people and then not say sorry. I want to be the kind of person who would say sorry. Now, what happened with that little clip is I was away on my August sabbatical, so I didn't have access to the internet, my phone, nothing. And my social media guy took that clip and just tweeted out, "Women aren't funny," which is not what I said. So
no, but you got to get views. It's a perfect video title.
Well, so I think on YouTube it makes sense. People are like, okay, he's trying to get us into the video. But when you tweet that out, you were asking for. But yeah, so I kind of regret. So if that video, I don't think I full out apologized, but I came close enough to it that I regret doing that.
Yeah, I can see that. But look, you're right about something though, because all right, so recently Rob and I had an on-air fight about co-sleeping, like allowing your kids to sleep in bed. And I went about it in a distasteful way, and I hurt a friend's feelings, right?
Oh,
so not Rob. I don't care if I hurt his feelings. I hurt.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah, I don't care if you get mad at me. But I hurt a friend's feelings. So I went and I apologized, and I apologized publicly and privately. And people will like never apologize to the mob, but that's not what I was doing. I was apologizing to a friend whose feelings I hurt.
Yeah.
I don't really care if people think I was, that wasn't about caving to the mob. It was about, I hurt a friend's feelings because of the way I went about it. And I wanted to make sure I repaired the damage there, So you're right there. There's two aspects of it, right? It's like, you don't want to look like you're being a sissy or a pussy, and just you just sorry guys. I just want to men talk like that sometimes, but you don't want to come off like you're just being that and caving in, but you also have to actually think about if you hurt someone and you want to, because I think so many people are afraid to admit they did something wrong. And if you're unable to admit you made a mistake, you're also a narcissist at that point, right? Like, so I could kind of where you're coming from with that, But also, so like you shouted us out on your channel the other day, and when you did, like beforehand, you were like, "Look, I don't agree with everything Anthony says." That you told me in the green room, you're like, "I kind of feel like an idiot for saying that. I shouldn't have said that."
Yeah, can I explain why?
Yeah.
Because the reason I regret saying that isn't because I don't think we would disagree on things. I'm sure we might. It's that whenever you say, "Hey, I like this person," if anyone out there thinks, "Oh, therefore he agrees with everything that person says," like that person might be an idiot.
Yeah.
And so I think from now on, I'm not going to use the caveat unless it's very specific. Like let's say, I don't know, let's say somebody thinks that homosexual marriage is a real thing, a real possibility. But they have a lot of great things to say on economics or something else. Yeah. In that case, maybe I'll say, I like what I said about economics. I don't like that. Like, I think you should be specific, but I don't like this general.
Let's go with this. I like Dave Rubin. I don't support what he, something like, because you've had a conversation with Dave Rubin, right? So it could be something like, go check Dave Rubin out. I'm not endorsing his surrogacy or anything, It's like,
I don't think I wouldn't Not that he'd want to come on my show, but I wouldn't have him on again.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Oh, so all right. So is there anybody else you regret having on?
So
I'm
Dave
not even
seems
saying
like
you regret having him on, but like
Dave seems like a really like a lovely fella who I think I'd get along with. We'd have a drink. We'd probably have a lot in common. I think I'd really enjoy him, you know. But I have to say, well, what's the point of Pints with Aquinas, right? It's to bring people into a relationship with Christ and the church. And I don't want to have someone on just for clicks. You know, so when Prager was going to come, do you know who Dennis Prager is?
Oh yeah, dude, that was actually one of my favorite conversations you've ever had.
Great.
When he was going to come on the show, I actually was not. I was about to cancel him. I actually asked my local supporters, should I even have this guy on? Because I was like, well, he just said that thing about pornography, but he's also just like a Jew guy. Like, and I'm trying to lead people to Christ. So why am I having him on? Is it just because he's got a big platform? And maybe that's okay. But so I was actually close to canceling. And then I decided, okay, I'll have him on, but we have to be able to talk about the porn thing. Mm-hmm. Like if this is something he doesn't want to rehash, then he can't come on the show because I have to, because I wrote about the topic and spoke about it forever. And so he said, yeah,
he said, story too going on at that moment.
He was very kind. I gave him a call. He said, Matt, I'm an open book, happy to talk about anything. So that's why I agreed to have him on. But yeah, I suppose someone who's living an openly, seriously sinful life with no intention of repenting. So we got the surrogacy issue too. The
surrogacy thing is that's a bridge. I mean, it's such it's such a, oh man, the funny thing is you'll see the left accuse the right of the Handmaid's Tale thing, where they're like, they don't want you to control your body. They want it to be the Handmaid's Tale. And that is actually what surrogacy is the Handmaid's Tale, where you're just renting some woman's womb, and it turns a child into a commodity in a way that's just horrid.
Let me follow up though, because I would have someone on the show who's moving in the right direction, maybe at a quicker pace, say. So I interviewed a fella called JP Sears. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's got a big comedy show on YouTube, but like he's someone who came out recently and said, I believe in God. All right. So he's someone who I think is very left, and then has started to change his views, said he believed in God. So I'm like, okay, like that makes sense to me.
Yeah, you're going to try and lead him a little bit.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to lead them, because I'm not sure if the podcast is the place to do that, but just to, I don't know, kind of expose their kind of evolving thought towards the truth of Catholicism is kind of interesting. Like I think I'd have Peterson on.
Oh, yeah.
I think, in fact, Tammy's agreed to come on the show in May, his wife.
When are you getting Shy on?
I've never reached out to him, and
you know he's going to do your show first. Well, he did Barron's already, but
well, if somebody out there has a contact, feel free to ask him. I'd be happy to have him on for sure.
Yeah, well, this whole thing started because I was saying, like, obviously you wouldn't agree. Like, I tweeted something the other day. Look, we were talking about women aren't funny, right?
Oh,
nobody makes me laugh.
Stand-up women aren't funny. Stand-up women.
Women say, well, that's where I'm kind of going with this.
Yeah, okay.
Nobody makes me laugh harder than my wife. And the other day, me and my wife was sitting on my lap, and we were both laughing so hard that my wife peed on my leg a little bit. Right?
Did you tell her you were going to share this story?
I tweeted it the other day.
Oh no!
Right before you shouted at our show.
Yeah, like there's something.
But it was such a funny, innocent moment. Like, and because she peed a little, it made her laugh harder. It was just like one of those moments in marriage where it was just like we were dying laughing. It was the funniest thing that happened in so long. And it was just like, I thought it was funny. So I tweeted it out, and everybody's like, this is too much information. Why are you sharing this? I'm like, are you guys kidding me? Like, how long have you guys been married, man? I've been married 19 years this July.
Praise God.
And she's still my favorite human being on the planet, man. We have like the best time together. We make a point to take these little weekend getaways without the kids and go do stuff together and stuff. I pray that everybody has a wife that you can make laugh hard enough that she pees on you a little bit, guys.
My wife is also extremely funny, I find, especially in the morning when she's not all with it. So I woke up the other night and I just kind of threw my legs over the bed, and I was kind of exhausted and half asleep, and I was about to go to the bathroom. And I don't know why, but I said, I'm just going to the bathroom. And immediately she said, do you need me to show you the way? Or do you need directions? I'm like, what the hell was that? I just...
Yeah, so the idea that women aren't funny isn't in itself true, but no, women stand-ups, but especially the modern iteration of women stand-ups where they just go for this shock content and they're talking about promiscuity and filth.
Yeah, I found a woman that came the closest to it the other day who I thought was excellent. Her name's Leanne something or other on Dry Bar Comedy. She's got this thick Southern accent. And I saw how she could be hilarious to women. And that's fair enough. Like, not all comedians are funny for everybody. But she's quite good. But I actually had someone write an article in Psychology Today after I made that announcement. Did you know that?
That's amazing.
So check this out. It was a woman who was a former stand-up comic who wrote a whole article about why I'm right.
Oh, get out of here. That's amazing.
And she said that even from like an atheistic evolutionary point of view, you could say, here's why Matt's right. And you could blame the patriarchy. You could say, we've been raised in a culture that is uncomfortable seeing women being assertive. And so when they do that from a stage, which they naturally have to be if they're speaking to a large crowd from a stage, it makes us uncomfortable. So I don't agree, right, with that assessment necessarily, although I'm open to it. But she kind of took that.
Well, let me tell you something. All right, I'm going to let you guys in. I'm going to break down the fifth wall a little bit. The reason I start fourth wall. That's where you're going to correct me, all the mistakes I make. So the reason I start every show off with women crashing and making fun of women drivers.
Oh, do you? Is that a thing?
Oh,
I didn't know that.
The last dozen shows at least. Yeah.
The reason I do that is to weed out the unfunny women. Because it really is. Because this,
if they can't laugh at themselves, they're not our audience.
Okay.
So look, we have like a 40% female audience, and the thing is, we will get nasty comments from women about our opening video making fun of women drivers, and it's like, if you can't take a lighthearted joke about a woman scuffing up her husband's rims, because we know you have scuffed up your husband's rims, you women can't drive. Like, it's just the way it is. And if you can't take a lighthearted joke about that, this show isn't for you. Because me and Rob have some irreverent jokes and we make some funny.
I thought you just played funny TikTok videos to kind of set the mood and make it kind of
jokey.
Well,
we do, but we've been really hammering the women drivers thing lately. Right. Like, listen, we had Patrick Coffin on Tuesday and we played a commercial for Goodyear from like 1970, and it's like, our tires are safe, but not just safe tires. Our tires are so safe that when your wife drives them, they're saying, like, it was.
Oh my God.
Rob, do you still have it? You got to play it.
Yeah, I do. I can play it.
You got to play it. It's the funniest.
While I find it.
I am not going to say publicly that my wife just crashed our car 3 days ago. I'm not going to say it.
Listen to me. My wife.
Which she did. She crashed the car.
This story. Listen to me.
I love her.
She gets in she pulls in the driveway. She's texting on her phone. She hops out of the car, goes in the house, comes back out, and the car is in the garage because she never put it in park.
Oh.
The car went through the freaking garage.
When was this?
This is a couple of years back, but this is when my
have you ever crashed your car?
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
but not like that. Like, women don't get it. Look, men get in accidents because they're driving too fast, they're making dangerous maneuvers. Women crash because they're just not paying attention, or they're just not good at handling the vehicle.
I like the jokiness, but I'm not convinced that's true. You might be right, but I think I'm sure there's a lot of men who've crashed because they were checking their. I mean, wouldn't you have to look at some kind of data that shows that women?
Yeah, well, women's insurance is lower because they're safer drivers, because there are safer drivers on the road.
They're not better drivers.
They're not better drivers, though. They're safer because they'll go the speed limit, things like that. But you have to think, if you're in a dangerous situation, right, and you got to go through some outback road, are you letting your wife behind the wheel?
I kind of would, because my wife's actually a pretty aggressive woman. And tends to be better at. No, I would definitely not let her drive because I'd feel emasculated. I would have to do it. Whether I could do it better or not isn't the question, because I don't know who would do it better. But she's a pretty aggressive driver. Then she might be, somewhere different on the bell curve, right? To say, to say that men aren't good at this or
Right.
women aren't good at this aren't to say there aren't exceptions.
Yeah, she like my sister-in-law is actually like my brother-in-law lets her drive all the time because she's actually like the aggressive one. She'll get that, like she knows how to drive in the city better than him.
Yeah.
But
yeah, when I moved to America, I was terrified of your 5-lane highways. I came from a small town in Australia.
That's the other thing. Did you guys drive on the was the steering wheel on the right or the other side? What you
it's
guys...
the exact opposite of y'all.
Oh wow, man.
So different side, different, but yeah. And then one day I remember she was really sick. I had to drive her to the hospital when we were dating, and I was so afraid. I was like petrified on this gigantic Houston highways. Anyway.
Yeah, that's actually pretty weird though, because I remember we went on vacation to Turks and Caicos, and they drive on the opposite side of the road, and I was like, I don't know, this feels weird, man. Like I didn't feel too safe doing that.
The one time I was in the car with you, Anthony, you drove on the wrong side of the road about the same amount of time as you did on the right side.
Oh, stop your nonsense.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I don't know. We like to tease the ladies a little bit to make sure we weed out the unfunny ones, because I'll tell you, man, it's
right.
What's the worst feedback you've ever gotten? Like, what was the most pushback you got from your audience?
Well, first of all, I was going to say one of the best things I've ever heard. You ever heard of a guy called Timothy Gordon?
Oh, Timothy Gordon is a good friend of mine.
So good. So his wife, I haven't read her books or anything, but sometimes I'll hear a clip here and there. I'm like, this woman's magical. I really like this woman. Like, one of the things she said is she hates it when men say happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
She said because it makes women seem like petulant children that you have to like coddle, which is so insulting. The other thing that she said that I liked is, you go to a men's conference and the man up on stage is telling you, you suck and you have no right to. So friggin' stop it. And men love that.
Yeah.
And I think, I hope I'm citing her correctly. She said something effective like, whereas women's conferences, you get a lot of, hey, ladies, like you're just a mystery that needs to be understood. And maybe women's temperament is different such that they need something a bit softer like that. Like maybe they wouldn't react well if you're like, you suck, be a better wife. You're not as good as you should be. But I hope that women.
I think if it's coming from a woman, that could be advantageous.
I think
to a
that's
woman, right? Like I think if a man says it comes off in the wrong way. Look, Tim Gordon is one of my most controversial friends because I really love the guy. Like he was one of the first people he was like one of the first big shows that actually came on with us and stuff. I think he's extremely honest, but he has a delivery that some people aren't comfortable with.
Right.
He just has a delivery that some people aren't comfortable with. I think Steph is what him and Steph do. Like they're not just putting on an act, and what they do works for them.
I only met him once, but he loves his wife well. That's the sense that I got when I was with the two of them. He's just he's got eyes for Steph. He loves her well. But
and I'll tell you, like, I think the danger comes in with you get a young guy who never took his faith seriously. He got married. He's married to a woman. Then he comes across that kind of content.
Dude, I say this stuff all the time. Have you heard me say this? We're saying the same thing.
So you come, this guy comes home and he just right away wants to tell his wife, you got to quit your job. I'm the man of the house, and he starts coming on with
have sex with me constantly.
Yeah, like you got a marital debt, woman.
Right.
You got a marital debt.
That's my concern too.
So that's so I had somebody reach out to me that recently converted and came across this stuff, and he comes home and it kind of put a major roadblock in his marriage. I mean, he married a very feminist woman, and she was like not sure if she wanted a divorce. And he was like, I just remember my marriage went through something similar. Me and my wife, when I converted, there was, man, it was almost like demonic possession in this house. Like I remember she was not gonna watch. Oh, she might watch this one with you on.
She'll
probably watch this one. She's gonna watch this one.
Does she? So wait, does she know you tweeted what you tweeted the other day about the?
She does now. I'm not worried about that. So All right. So when I first converted, my wife thought I lost my mind. Like she actually thought I lost my mind. She's like, what the hell is going on with my husband? I don't understand. You were not, you know, what like I was like, I want to go to the Latin mass. I want to like all these things. And it was just such friction in my home for a period of time where she wasn't where I was yet. Now she did she did follow my lead. Okay. So I married a woman who follows my lead. So she came to mass with me, even though she didn't. This isn't there at the top, right? Wait, we got that's something else. Remind me of Thursdays here because we got to talk about that next. So she did follow my lead. She came to mass with me. She went through the motions, but her heart wasn't there yet. And
Right.
it got so tense in my home that I actually had to leave my home for
Oh,
like a
wow.
2-week period. I went and stayed with my mom just to let things cool down. Now, in that 2-week period, I went on this insane fast and started just fasting for
Wow.
my marriage and deep prayer about it. It
God
was,
bless you.
and it turned my marriage from the most difficult period of our lives to the most beautiful period in our lives, where my
Wow.
wife then converts and she comes around, and
Whoa.
it just led to this amazing thing. So this guy calls me, and we were talking about it. I'm like, leave. Like, if that's where she's at, if it's that if you're dealing with that much friction, leave. And I told him to go through this period of fasting like I did. I said, just
Wow.
go through it and just bring it to God. Like, just this is out of your hands at this point. If it's that tense in the home, sometimes you just need a little space from each other. I'm not saying
Mhm.
divorce. I'm saying just give her a little bit of space if she's really this upset. So, I mean, I don't know where his marriage is going to end up, but I do think that there's a tendency in marriages nowadays where you just see men who are just emasculated from their wives henpecking them constantly, right? Like, I think that's what Tim told me what spurred on his writing the book, The Patriarchy and stuff, because we went to Disney and me and my wife are just sitting there watching all these women henpeck their emasculated
So
husbands.
this is funny because I had Tim on my show. Gosh, it's so funny when you've had so many people on your show that you forget that you've had them on the show. Like, there's actually been times
Yeah.
where I'm like, oh, I got it. Oh, I've had it. That might say more about my memory than anything else. But I remember him saying something in the show that at the time I was like, just like, how could you say that? And then like 5 years later, I'm like, oh, this is how he could say that. So what he
Yeah.
said was, you've got these women talking to their husbands, and I want to say, you're not attractive enough to talk to him like that. All right. Fast forward 5 years, and I'm getting off a plane in France with my family. This woman is berating her husband, talking to him like if this woman was talking to her child that way, I would be like, all right, give the kid some slack. Like, I don't know what he's done, but I mean, and fair enough. As parents, it can be frustrating being with kids, but she's talking to her husband like that.
Yeah.
And I said to my wife, I want to tell her, you're not attractive enough to talk to your husband like that. But I don't want the poor husband to feel any more just belittled than he already does. Anyway.
Well, let me tell you something about what Tim's trying to get across to everybody. Feminism is the original gender dysphoria, and he's right. He's 100% right, right? Like, you have women trying to usurp the role of the husband. That's the original gender dysphoria. It's really the curse of Eve, where Eve's curse is that she will want to rule over her husband. That is what is going
Wow.
on there. Her curse is that she will want to rule over her husband. And what actually starts happening in the 20th century is women start to rule over their husbands, to the point where we're at now, where like men are just afraid to even have a
Right. So you have
personality around their wives,
women being masculinized and
and
men being
men being
feminized.
feminized.
I just interviewed a Sheila about this recently. What was her name? She wrote a book called The End of Woman, and that book changed my mind completely.
You had someone on, oh, I forgot her name, and she did, it was such a good show. It was because we all talk about antichrist, and she's like, what about the anti-Mary? Because feminism
what is her
the
name? I feel
anti-Mary.
terrible.
Carrie Gress.
Yes. Okay. Carrie Gress is a beautiful woman, and she wrote this book on feminism, kind of expecting that, okay, first wave is pretty good, but the rest is bad. And she realized, no, it's been all about trying to make women men from the get-go, not to mention the weird occult practices that were there from the origin. And I think when I first started thinking about feminism, I thought, well, how on earth could anyone kind of lambast feminism? Because to my mind, I think to a lot of people's minds who aren't your followers probably, and maybe mine, I don't know, they would say something like, Well, feminism is just that thing that helps women not be oppressed. Like, that's how they understand it. So if you're against a thing that helps women not be oppressed, like, you're a bad person. But it was only in reading this book, which I would highly recommend to everybody. Yeah, my wife and I were just shocked. It was a complete game changer. Like, for the longest time, my wife and I realized, okay, you shouldn't be calling yourself a Catholic feminist. Like, we realized that, but we didn't know why. And this book fully removed the scales from both of our eyes, I would say.
Yeah, you got to think from its inception, feminism was always about destroying the patriarchy, getting rid of the priesthood. Like it really.
And that's why in feminism you always see this trifecta, right? Of like occultism, where kind of women are the high priest, the kind of tarot card readers, and this sort of thing. Free love, quote unquote, which is really like enslaved passion, which was meant to destroy the nuclear family and the patriarchy. And so you've got these two things here. You're trying to attack the patriarchy within the priesthood and the church, and then the family. Yeah, it's interesting stuff.
I love when people say that the reason that we have male-only priesthood is because it's a product of the culture of the times, without recognizing that every other pagan religion had priestesses.
And without realizing that when you say that, you're accusing Christ of sexism.
That too, right?
Yeah.
It's this weird thing where actually every other religion besides Judaism had female priestesses. It was only Judaism that had an all-male priesthood. And the reason that is because the patriarchy actually is divinely ordered. And the thing is, a woman who goes out into the workforce is not liberated, because she, instead of being at home and working for her husband, who actually loves her and wants what's best for her, she's now working for some stranger who's going to berate her and take her time away from her children and things like that. Yeah. It's such an inverse thing. And you really have to look at how many how much divorce skyrockets and infidelity skyrockets when women enter the workforce, because co-ed working scenarios, I mean, it's a very difficult thing when you have that men and women have sexual tension between them, and men and women are weak. So you put them in a work environment together, they're talking and they're flirting with each other a little bit here and there. It's a dangerous scenario to put them in, and it's had its consequences over the years, you know?
Right.
It doesn't mean every woman that works is going to cheat. It doesn't mean every woman that works is going to have a divorce. I mean, it just puts pressure on weak human beings.
Yeah.